When most people think of nostalgia, they tend to think of memories that elicit strong emotions. This seems pretty general though, possibly implying all fond memories are nostalgia. Instead, a more accurate, albeit slightly unsatisfying definition would be to say that nostalgia is the want or yearning to go back, to return, to re-experience. Sadly, this is impossible, simply being the nature of time moving forward, being a different person with constantly changing ideas and understandings, even if that nostalgia is from only a week ago. Or maybe 30 years ago. What about before you were born? What about the future? Both anticipating you'll be nostalgic for something, or just being nostalgic for a future that could exist one day. Well, yeah. And yet, why does it happen the way it does? Why do these memories suddenly tug at our emotions at any given time, almost at random? Does your life have to seem worse in the present for the want to go back? If it did, I wouldn't be asking. For this though, I have no answer. No one will. But we can still talk about it, and maybe more can be discovered about this under-researched topic. What does this have to do with video games though? Well, for the last 40 years, gaming was brought up from a fad to a full-blown economy, rife with products, enormous internet presence, celebrity endorsements, and an entire sport. It was also something parents used as gifts and toys for their kids as they grew up and experienced life. Honestly though, it means nothing to nostalgia. It only adds fuel to the fire. Anything can be nostalgic, and it can be for any reason, as long as there is the inexorable pull to return to it the same as it once was. The difference is how widespread and readily available games are. You can spend thousands on a gaming PC, or walk into your local library and use a PC there. Either way, you can find video games to play if you really want to. Through all of this, nostalgia rears its ugly head, affecting games and the gaming landscape as a whole. Or does it? Nostalgia is a feeling, one everyone has experienced at least once before, if not every day, or at least once a week. Are these feelings bad? Of course not. They're just feelings. You control how you react to them. If you make a conscious effort, you can evade the pull, or if you leave them unchecked, can destroy your entire life. But not because it is inherently good or bad. Instead, nostalgia has weaknesses. Not quite like typing advantages from Pokemon, or weakening monsters with a conviction aura. More like aspects that can be taken advantage of. Okay, yeah, I guess they're a bit similar. These do tend to be a bit different with gaming, although they can be seen in other forms, such as political nostalgia, or even nostalgia from other media, such as movies. These weaknesses, to me, seem to help define it even more, filling in a few of the missing pieces. At this point, I'm sure you can think of a few prominent weaknesses in the gaming world. One such weakness is the idea that nostalgia is ruining gaming. Often heard during arguments is the phrase, "take off your rose-colored glasses," referring to nostalgia's warping someone's view of older video games. This is meant to be bad, something that can ruin new games by having a company reuse a formula over and over, never leaving their comfort zone. Sometimes this can also refer to games having bad mechanics or poorly flowing sections amid the great ones. Even less specific, nostalgia can be blamed for simply not liking a game. While these are legitimate criticisms of video games, none of these things are caused by nostalgia itself. All of this is how a person reacts to their own feelings. Nostalgia is just a convenient scapegoat for those who do not wish to critically think about their own feelings. You see, nostalgia can help to define who you are. Not because it is who you are, but because it's who you remember you want to be. When someone else's feelings are thought to invalidate your own, a common reaction can be to be defensive. This is why being open-minded and critically thinking can help reduce these things. Then, one can argue with more well-thought-out points. Something else that occurs to me is this. How do you know that someone is being nostalgic for a game? What if they just genuinely enjoy a game and its mechanics? And this is the reason why they want games to continue in a manner such as this. The only word we have is that of the player who speaks it, and sometimes it's never believed. This weakness is really the weakness of those who do not respect the opinions or feelings of others. Would it not be more helpful to believe how others say they feel and work from there, rather than lazily scream about nostalgia? Players, though, aren't the only ones who are accused of being blinded. Some will accuse the creators of video games of being too nostalgic, missing the point of why a game they copied had been popular in the past. I want to bring up an example from a video I watched recently. Adam Miller presents nostalgia to us as holding games back and gives examples of why in his video of a similar title, How Nostalgia is Holding Games Back. He uses Banjo-Kazooie and ukulele to explain the overuse of nostalgia. He states that while ukulele is a pretty faithful recreation of a Banjo-Kazooie Banjo-Kazooie game, they missed the point of why Banjo was fun, sadly including the more boring, mundane parts. I have to wonder though, why is this a nostalgia problem? Could it not just as easily have been a decision to include the boring parts because the creators of Yooka-Laylee didn't find them boring? Are these parts actually boring and unfun? For some people, yes, but for others, no. Nostalgia is just an easy scapegoat. To be honest, Adam made an important video. A look at how he believes nostalgia affects games. That it's never a bad thing to have more opinions, right? The problem here is how often he uses personal opinion and anecdotes for his explanations, and how much it alienates other gamers, as evidenced by the comments on his video. Regardless of this, Adam does still bring up a good point. Game creators are also responsible for how people view their games through the lenses of nostalgia, because that will inevitably happen. You'll still get people viewing it through that way, but a large part of it is the intent with which a game is made. Is your intent to invoke nostalgia? Is your intent to share nostalgia? What if your intent is to just make money? But even if their intent is to just make a good game, maybe just make a game that they themselves would like to play, it will inevitably be full of nostalgia. And even though it's not always obvious, it's still important for them to have positive intent. Otherwise, well, the game probably won't do very well, and a lot of people will point out this intent really seems to be that you just wanted to make money, which really is important to people who play video games. They don't want to feel like you're just trying to make money off of them, rather than sell them a good product, something that they can enjoy. Okay, so what is it exactly we can do with all of this information? Just understanding the weakness, the pitfalls we can fall into, is all that we can do to understand it and know that it's there and use the correct intent? Well, yeah, kind of. This is a subjective form of media. It doesn't need to be the crux of your argument, but keep nostalgia in mind as one of the many things that go into deciding whether or not a game is good. I don't think it's fair to say that one feeling has more say over anything else. Don't forget that people do have their own likes and dislikes. So there are many people who like something that you don't, and so many people don't like something that you do like. So as long as you keep it in line with everything else that goes into deciding whether or not a game is good, and if you think games should keep going in the direction they are going, then that's all we need to do. And I hope that's what you take away from this short look at understanding how nostalgia affects gaming. There aren't any direct answers. It's just a way of looking at it so that we can figure out whether or not this is nostalgia or if it's not. I honestly just noticed that there isn't very much of a discussion on what parts of video gaming have nostalgia and how it affects it. And these are just a few ways that are pretty obvious to me that I see a lot. So it's nice to just think about it critically. It's helpful for everyone too, honestly, because if you look through any forum anywhere about any video game you want, you're going to find an argument and you will eventually find someone citing nostalgia. So it's really helpful when everyone understands it and can work together and have arguments rather than just screaming matches at each other that really go nowhere. So just know that nostalgia will always be a part of things. Just doesn't have to be the biggest part. I know this isn't my usual type of video, but nostalgia is a really important part of everyone's lives, and it's important to remember during this challenge that I look at each and every one of these games in a new way, which is very important and really how you should be handling nostalgia and video games. I have seen a surge in videos talking about whether or not nostalgia is ruining gaming or how it actually is ruining gaming. And honestly, it just isn't. It's all how developers and players react to their own nostalgia and the nostalgia of others. I mean, we can see a good example in the Oblivion Remastered that just recently released. It came out of nowhere, it was not hyped up for years beforehand, and it was a fairly nice remaster with some changes that helped the game become even more fun than it was originally. So as we can see, nostalgia does have good things that come from it, as long as it is handled with care and correctly, or at least in a way that gamers would like it to be handled. We will see many future instances of it being mishandled. Don't worry, I'm not saying it is never mishandled. It is mishandled quite often, but it is not directly nostalgia. It is much more about greed than it is about an emotion like nostalgia. Nostalgia can be so helpful for anyone to remember and feel fond memories of. I mean, it's not just there for fun. Everyone has nostalgia. You remember things fondly for a reason. And it's not because things are bad. It's because you enjoyed something once in your life. Joy is such an important emotion, and remembering it is great, but that's all it should be. A memory that evokes good emotions and allows you to continue your future and present endeavors. Thank you so much for listening to this little video about nostalgia, and maybe it hopefully changes the way you view it, because again, it is not all bad. And I hope that anyone who's come here might also want to enjoy a little bit of nostalgia with PS2 games, which this channel is about, all about PS2 games and the new ways I get to experience them. So come back to the channel for more PS2 stuff and maybe some more nostalgia stuff. Anyway, I'll see you guys for the next video. Later.